Oh, I'd like to get the public hearing underway, and I'd like to let the Public Works Director make a few remarks.
Introduce him. Introduce him by name.
First, I want to thank you all for coming tonight. I want to get right to this. There is another meeting booked here for 7:30. We want to make sure everyone gets heard. Introducing my name is Ed Gentile. I'm Director of Public Works for the town of Darien. Up front is Darren Ostafine, our Assistant Director to the left, Mike Cotta, our Tree Warden straight ahead. Also in the audience tonight is Mama McNally, one of our town selectmen, along with members of the Great Island Advisory Committee are here also. Just let's take a few minutes before we start the public hearing.
Yeah.
That's not good.
Good warm up. Yeah, good move.
Start over.
Okay, you're good? Okay. All right, let me take a few minutes before we start the public hearing and review how we had gotten here. When I'm finished, I'll hand it over to Mike, our tree warden, to start the public hearing. If you have any questions regarding the project or anything that I said, please feel free to reach out to me either tomorrow or next week, and I would be more than happy to talk to you about the Great Island project, the roadway, and the driveway design. Sorry. So the purchase of Great Island was May 2023. A design for widening the driveway was discussed, and we moved ahead with, as requested, we moved ahead with the design. Design of the access driveway was completed in January of 2024. Proceeded to all the regulatory bodies for the town of Darien.
Speak into the mic.
I am.
It's my hearing aid.
Can you hear me now?
It's the same. It's
Okay.
I don't
me.
know that the mic is actually broadcasting.
It's broadcasting.
Yeah.
I'll speak a little bit louder for you, if that helps.
Or would you like to sit closer?
Well, I'm good.
Okay.
So we went to all the regulatory bodies, Architectural Review Board, EPC, Environmental Protection Commission, and Planning and Zoning Commission. And we were reviewed and obtained final approval in February of this year. Went to multiple public hearings, took in multiple input from all three of the regulatory bodies, moved ahead and finalized the design and put it out to bid in April of 2024, where, much to my surprise, we had no bidders for the job. Did a little research, talked to some of the contractors, and it, made a couple changes, some substantial changes to the design package and bid, more of structural than anything else, and put it back out to bid in August of 2024, where we obtained 6 bidders. Prices ranging from $1.6 million to $3.4 million. So the driveway design calls for the removal of these trees, the topic of tonight's tree hearing. With regards to those 16 trees, we did realize that we wanted to make some remediation as part of the plan, so we put together a landscaping plan from a reputable landscaping design engineer in this area. When we were completed with the plan, it turned out as an end product of 55 new trees going in place, 67 new bushes, a total of 122 new native plantings along this roadway. It's about 1,000 feet long. I considered it an intense plan based on the available space that we had. It was modified based on input from the adjacent property owners who we met with before we finalized the design. The driveway design layout was also modified where we were able to save 5 of the large trees as you get closer to the turnaround there on the south side of the roadway. Approving agencies asked of the design to consider the Great Island resources and features in our design. So the project was asked to salvage 5 to 8 of the large trunks of these trees in 20-foot lengths, place them on site, dry them, and plan to mill them and use them for some type of feature on the island, and it could be anything made of wood. So that was put in the bid, and we do have actually a really good price to do that. So that will happen as part of the project. Other considerations, just so you know, the cobbles lining the driveway were to be saved. Existing stone curbing is to be reused for the new driveway. Existing stone pillars are to be relocated with their gates. Limited lighting features are proposed. They match the existing ones on the current island now. And the stone wall design was matched the existing style on the island. So we took great care, and we heard back from all the regulatory bodies on how to approach this project, and we took great care in implementing those in the design. Design criteria. P&Z regulations have a minimum standard of 20 feet for an access driveway or low-volume street. 26-foot minimum for a roadway in town. Our current design is 22 feet wide. I'd say it was a compromise, but I think it was a design selection, if you will. We felt that two 10-foot lanes were a little too tight for larger vehicles going in and out of that area. So we made it 11-foot lanes in each. That's why you get the 22-foot wide roadway surface. It also includes, as part of the design, a 5-foot wide sidewalk and a 22-foot wide grass strip. We call that a snow shelf for when we're plowing. That total is 29 feet. The access property is only 50 feet wide. And we have the current design showing the road, the driveway and the sidewalk as far south away from these trees as we possibly could. Inevitably, though, the trees still needed to be removed. So why do we need to construct the road now? Well, first and foremost, it's emergency access, and by definition, a two-way driveway is required by our fire marshal when a change of use on Great Island finally happens. And it is inevitable. The use over there will change from what it is now. We will need the two-way traffic as defined by the fire marshal, and this roadway will need to be built. So having this work done now and completed will allow our town residents access to this property sooner. I'm going to turn the public hearing over to Mike Cotter right now. Michael, thank you very much for letting me do this.
Thanks, Ed. Good evening, my name is Michael Cotta. I'm the tree warden for the town of Darien, Connecticut. Tonight's public hearing concerns the removal of 15 trees on the Darien right-of-way adjacent to Lot 23A, which is the access driveway to Great Island. 15 trees were posted. I think 3 white spruces, 3 eastern hemlocks, and 9 Norway spruces. Those are, of course, the larger ones that are pretty mature. The trees were posted for removal on August 20th, 2024, as required by law per Connecticut General Statutes. The town received written objections to the tree removals within 10 days. Connecticut General Statute, Section 2359, requires that the tree warden hold a public hearing at some suitable time and place after giving reasonable notice to those parties known to be interested in the matter. Notification of this public hearing has been sent to those known interested parties and to those in the immediate vicinity of the subject trees. Notification of this public hearing has also been posted on subject trees. Individuals present this evening will be given one opportunity to be heard on this matter. The tree warden will render a decision within 3 days of the close of public hearing. No decision will be made at this public hearing. Any party aggrieved by the tree warden's decision will have 10 days to appeal to the Superior Court. Everyone in attendance this evening will have one opportunity to make a statement. Before making a statement, please identify yourself by name and address for the record. I think last time we had a little bit of trouble with the microphone, and so I'm going to probably ask to be sure everyone gets their name and address down correctly. But I'd like to start the public hearing. Usually I go from right to left or from the front row towards the back, so we're going to be able to start right in I guess, the corner over here. Would you like to make a statement? Yeah.
No, I do not.
Would you like to make a statement?
I have a couple of questions.
Sure, go ahead to the microphone. Hopefully it's working. We got to get your name and address, and you're certainly free to go on.
I'm Frank Persico, and I live in Salem Straits on Peabody Lane.
So you get the name up there?
Yes.
2 questions. How far back is the road going? Just to the circle? Because there's the continuous road that goes around the rest of the property. And is that involved in this or not?
Mike doesn't know that.
Yeah, I know. It's got to at least go to that circle though, from where the posted trees are. That's obvious. What they're doing for the rest of it, I may be wide enough. I don't know. I don't know what's going on past that access point.
just so everybody knows, Mike and I are not intimately familiar with the design that's proposed. So Ed Gentile.
Is there anyone here who's familiar with the design?
Well,
I'll speak at the end, I'll make note of your question and I'll answer.
Okay, because the road significantly narrows as you get back towards the mansion house. It's like 12 feet wide at that point.
Yeah, just so you know, the basic approach is going to be, if we have traffic on the island, it's going to be a one-way loop. Whereas
Right.
this is the only entrance and exit to the island, and therefore it has to be two-way.
I'm wondering what's achieved though by having it two-way for, I don't know, 100 yards? And then one lane the rest of the way. If we're concerned about cars blocking the roadway or access for emergency vehicles, they'll only be able to access that circle.
I'm not sure I follow you. The problem, well,
The basic question is why doesn't, if we need a two-lane road, why doesn't it encompass the whole island, not just
because
the 100 yards?
Because you can organize the traffic such that it's going to be a one-way loop around the island, whereas with the entrance, we only have a single road, right? And that has to be two-lane because there's no way to create a loop out of that. It's just a single entrance into the island.
Okay, and what is the actual authority we're citing that requires this to be a two-lane? Is that a town thing? Is it a state rule?
Fire marshal, I believe. They must have zoning regulations for emergency vehicles. I believe that's what the source, but I'm not really actively involved in it.
I'm just wondering if all of this effort is just based on what the fire marshal thinks and perhaps he's being hyper-vigilant about access.
So we looked at this pretty closely. We looked at this very closely, that this is standard practice for access to properties like this. Anytime you've got public access like we envision, you've got to have two-lane access to provide for emergency services. The other thing I would say is that if we're going to have traffic on the island itself, any traffic at all, whether we have lots of parking places or no parking places and just disabled access, the reality is you're going to have two-way entrance into Great Island to accommodate that. There's just, we look for ways around that, but there's not really a way to provide what we need in terms of access without a two-lane road.
Okay, and do we actually know who's cutting down the trees?
Excuse me?
Do we actually know what organization is cutting down the trees?
I have no idea. They've, like Ed had spoken before, they've hired someone and made it, you know, they did get those proposals. I think that would be included in that. I would assume it'd be someone like Davis Tree and Logan or someone come in there and take them down. Some pretty big shots.
again, if I could jump in, Mike does not know the answer to that question.
I would assume that's it, though.
It's not Mike, though.
Not me, no.
It could be Mike, it could not be Mike. It's probably going to be the contractor that's hired to do the work.
That's what I was trying to say.
So Mike does not know the answers to those questions. Mike is not intimately familiar with the design, nor am I. We're here to collect all of your comments, so please make a comment for the record, and your comments will be considered in Mike's deliberation along with the Director of Public Works. And you can ask Ed, who was just here, any questions that you want. He is very intimately familiar, as is the First Selectman and Ms. McNally, the other selectman.
I asked the two questions I had. You're not a lawyer by any chance, are you?
Engineer.
Engineer, okay. Now, you seem to be issuing a disclaimer twice there. I was wondering about what you didn't know as opposed to what you do know. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you very much. John's gonna bet you.
I'll talk at the end if I need to.
Yeah, well, I'll get you in.
Maybe that will help. Juliet Kane, 81 Locust Hill Road.
What's the last name, Julian?
Kane.
You got that all
I got
down,
it.
right? All right, as long as he's got it.
Yes.
I'm
Sorry.
surprised you don't know me.
We know you.
I actually was in two minds whether or not to speak tonight because I thought that the tree removal was a foregone conclusion because of the emergency vehicle access. But I think the last speaker raised a very good point, because if you can get in and out on the access road, but you have a car or two cars that are broken down on the one-way system, that, I don't know what happens to your ambulance or your fire engine then. But anyway, just a thought after what you said. And I heard about the replanting plan. I think there are a number of I think they're mostly non-natives based on my calculations, and they're small trees and shrubs, but it's definitely improved over the original proposal. But before I say anything else, I want to clarify something that I said at the public hearing last week about the trees of Nearwater Lane. And I spoke in support of a compromise that I thought had been reached with the town in relation to those trees. And I just want to clarify that I was talking about that compromise. I was not talking about support for the ultimate decision that was rendered by the tree warden to remove 7 out of 9 trees, just for the record. And I also want to reiterate a point that I made at that hearing that is related to this, but not necessarily directly on topic. And I know I'm a worn record, but I am really concerned that Darien has no protections for the environment or conservation. Thank you. I know we have the EPC, but its mandate is limited to wetlands. And as for trees, we have a tree warden who is a volunteer, but his livelihood is dependent in part on removing trees. That's all I'll say. And unlike other towns in Fairfield County, we don't have any ordinance or rules or regulations to protect these removals. And our town is rapidly becoming an urbanized community. But unlike our urbanized neighbors like Stamford and Norwalk, we aren't conducting massive tree planting and care programs like they are. They are trying to make their cities more comfortable and attractive and cooler. We, on the other hand, are encouraging development, and we're sacrificing our natural resources. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to be looking you straight in the eye. I'm not accusing you, just the way the podium is facing. And let me just give you examples. The Thorndale Circle development resulted in the net loss of over 50 trees. We have more commercial development now near Trader Joe's. We have developers that come in developing private land and denuding the properties of trees. And there doesn't seem to be anyone who is looking at the long-term cost of these losses. We're losing air filtration, water filtration, carbon capture, carbon storage, just to name a few of them. And when there are replanting plans, they are not adequate to replace the benefits that we're losing. And if I was a developer, I wouldn't bother with a robust planting plan. Why would I, if the town doesn't require it? And now I personally, and maybe other people feel the same way, I find it too hot to shop on Corbin Drive on a summer afternoon. The sidewalk sales are unbearable, except early morning. We have Darien Commons, which is 2 buildings and a massive parking lot in between. And we have a few shrubs that don't provide any cool or shade. We are a developer's dream town. And some of you might think that I'm saying that to be positive, but I'm not. And what happens when those businesses fail, those businesses where it's too hot to shop for a good part of the year? I gave a talk in the library in May about the benefits of trees. And one of the studies I mentioned found that where you have a treescape retail area, you attract people. They stay longer and they shop. We haven't designed like that. Yes, we have a Board of Selectmen goal that says we're going to maintain tree density of our tree canopy. But honestly, we don't have an inventory or an assessment. How do we know what we've got? What are we going to maintain? And it's clear that we're losing every day, just based on the developments that I've mentioned. So until we adopt true protections, I think we're going to see more building and less greenery. And I just hope that for Great Island, we leave it the bucolic space that it is, and that the history and heritage of those magnificent buildings is going to be restored and not destroyed. Thank you.
You'd like to speak?
Tony Panaro, 16 Red Cedar Drive.
You got, what's the name again?
Tony Panaro.
Tony?
Tony. Tony.
Yeah, got that.
Okay.
Get the last name?
Seems to me those trees add the whole setting to that property. I can see improvements, and you bought the land and all that to make it a park. But those trees took 125 years to grow that way. You're not going to get those trees no more. You're not going to replace those type of trees. You got wildlife living in those trees. You got owls living in those trees. I got pictures of owls living in those trees. But to me, you're going to make that road wider. It doesn't make sense. That should be a road for entry or exit. You should make another road come in. You have enough property there to make another entrance. There got to be another way. The easiest way is just chop down the trees and make the road wider. That isn't an answer. Then you got to take down the pillars, the gates in the front, and that's going to be to the adjacent road is Rings End Road. That's going to invite people just to keep on driving in. You're going to make it too commercial look. The whole deal of this property is preserving what you have and make it look nice. That's a beautiful piece of property. I remember when there's cows on that property. It's a sin you're destroying a piece of land. I can see improving it and do it the right way. Think things out before, the easiest way is just to make a road and cut it out, cut the trees down. I think you're destroying the property. I think there's another way. There's another way. Those trees are beautiful trees. You're not going to see them anymore, in our lifetime. Those trees are over 125 years old. You're just going to cut them down? I can see if they're sick or something, but those trees are in good health. It's a sin. It's a sin. And I hope you think things out when you do more developing on that property. But I don't know who owns the other entrance coming in. I don't know how much property does the town owns, but you got to think things out twice before you start developing. And once those trees are cut down, you're not going to see them no more. And you better think it twice before you start developing. Just get a clear mind. Just go over there, take a look at it. Take a walk. I took a walk there today. I said to myself, what a sin to cut these beautiful trees down to make a road wider. Are you kidding me? That's ridiculous. I think there's another way you can make another road. You got enough land there to make another road and make a walkway for pedestrians, or make that a walkway for pedestrians, or make another road coming in. Make another way. There's another way besides cutting those trees. Those trees are the whole property. You go down Rings End Road and you see those trees, that's the whole property. That makes the whole setting. You don't have any other trees like that on the property. And sure, oh yeah, we'll plant other trees. You and I would be dead and gone by the time those trees get those sizes again. So think twice before you develop. Don't be like Stanford. After Stanford developed, now they're coming back, oh, we should never done this, we never should have done that. And you're overdeveloping in Darien anyway. You're becoming a city, not a town anymore. You're losing that charm of Darien. You're losing it. There's so much traffic now. You're putting condos and apartments all over. You're losing the character of Darien. And by doing what you're doing to that piece of land down there, it's a disgrace. It's a shame. It's a shame. Once you lose it, that's it. You can always save those trees. You can put a road in and always take the road out and restore it. But those trees you ain't going to plant again, and you're not going to get them that size again. Once those trees are gone, that's it. Think twice. And the people who are deciding this, I hope they live in Darien. Or do they live in Darien, or do they live in another town? Or who's making these decisions? Do they live in Darien? But anyway, but just don't go by the government way because you work for the government. Just don't go the way they think, okay, we're just cutting down and do as you're told. But think these things out twice before you develop it. That's all I got to say.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Get to the second row and move over where Monica is. Would you like to speak, Monica?
You want to wait? You want to Monica? You want to speak?
623. Joseph Montrello, 20 Whaling Road in Salem Straits. First of all, thank you for convening this. I do have some questions. Thank you for my neighbors for joining. My wife and I were the principal authors of one of the letters that was sent, joined by many members of Salem Straits. And, first of all, where I want to start here is, one, this seems a little bit like an exercise. I believe that gentleman in the blue shirt, his name was Ed. He seems to be a person that's a decision maker about Great Island generally. He left. It seems he doesn't care to hear what many of the people in the community say. So I think that's an interesting message sent by decision makers to residents and, more importantly, taxpayers. So please note that for the record. Second of all, it seems you'll be making the decision, sir, and I understand you're a volunteer, not an elected official, and I don't mean to sort of make make this about you, but for something that's effectively owned by the town, which means the taxpayers, I struggle with how an unelected official should be making that decision, period. A question, what will be the basis for your decision? So you're going to render a decision at the end of this proceeding or in 3 days. What facts, circumstances, evidence, laws will you consider in that decision? So as I make the rest of my comments, I would like to specifically address things that you will use, or is it a foregone conclusion? And if it is, can you please share that with everyone who's convened here?
Can I jump in?
You can jump in, sure.
Mike's the tree warden. He's appointed by the Director of Public Works, that's the fellow in the blue shirt.
Is the Director of Public Works elected?
No, he
Okay.
serves at the pleasure of the Board of Selectmen
Okay.
and the First Selectman.
So we have 2 tiers of unelected officials making decisions about assets of the town that, as my neighbor here pointed out, are hundreds of years old.
Ed Gentile, the Director of Public Works, serves at the pleasure of the Board of Selectmen and carries forward their vision.
So will the Board of Selectmen make this decision?
No.
So who will make this decision?
Ed Gentile, the Director of Public Works, and
Who's
Michael.
not here?
He was here.
But he's no longer here to hear the evidence and the comments and the opinions of the community.
As he said, and I said in the beginning, we're here to collect whatever comments you have.
Is
and
there, is someone, I understand this is being broadcast, but is he going to review the entire record here as one would, as a judge would in judicial proceeding? What I'm saying is, I would like to know, and please, I know everyone can't speak, but who will be the decision maker here?
Ed Gentile. the
How
Director-
can he make a decision?
You're not letting me finish, sir. Okay. Ed Gentile will work with Michael Cotta to make the decision, and he will try and carry out the vision of the Board of Selectmen and numerous other committees and departments and approval processes that have taken place. Michael Cotta is the appointed tree warden. Michael Cotta is following the law. He's
So-
here to follow the Connecticut General Statutes. He's holding a public hearing. Your comments will be considered when they deliberate and decide how they're going to do this.
Thank you. Respectfully, that was a non-answer. I'm asking the decision, so first of all, you're saying carrying out the vision of the selectmen. So is this a foregone conclusion? That the trees will be cut or no?
We're holding a public hearing.
It's a yes or no question, sir. Is it
It's
a
not a court of
foregone?
law. I'll answer how I want.
But, okay, so
Doesn't anybody watch Instagram? Come on,
e-
you know how to answer.
What would you like to know? Is it a
I would
foregone
like to know,
conclusion?
is anything that's said here, how will that be considered? And or are the trees being cut? Is this a pro forma hearing? We're having it because the law requires to have it, but full speed ahead, we're cutting the trees.
We're holding the public hearing to have your comments be in the record and considered.
So who will make the decision?
Ed Gentile and Michael Cotta.
How is Ed Gentile going to make the decision if he's not in the room listening to the people? So I'm just speaking here. I don't see a court reporter, right? How will he make that decision? And I'm asking, is this something that he's going to look at the evidence, look at the opinions, or is he going to say, the Board of Selectmen directed me to do this, effectively to widen a road to nowhere, right, as one of my neighbors said in their letter, or is there actually a decision on the table here? Because I don't know if we all need to sit here if the decision is already made.
No decision has been made. All of those questions, as Ed Gentile said.
Who's not in the room?
He's not in the room. You are correct. All of those questions can be directed to him. Any questions about the details of the proposal, any questions about what he considers and how he makes the decision with Michael Cotta, you can speak to him. I can give you his email, I can give you his phone number, and I can
Well, how
assure
come
you.
they're not here? Let them all be, they should be here
I
tonight.
can't
sitting
speak
here.
for
We'll
my
be
boss,
sitting
he's
here
not
for-
here, he has the floor, excuse me, sir.
Go don't make sense.
If you would like to speak to him and ask him those questions, you can.
I would like to see him in the public hearing that everybody left
This
work,
is-
left home, left their families to attend, prepared comments for, sent letters, as my neighbor here said, trying to save trees that are 125 years old around, right? It sounds like Mr. Ed, he made his remarks and bolted. That doesn't even sound like that. That's in fact what happened. That gives the impression he does not care what this group of people says. If you care what people say, you don't leave the room before they keep speaking. My wife will tell you that.
He will carefully review everything.
Is he a
that's
resident
being
of
said.
Darien? Is he a voter here? We're voters here. We pay the taxes. That just went up. So my taxes went up to pay for Great Island. My voice isn't being heard. My neighbors' voices aren't being heard. A decision is being made by someone who doesn't even pay those taxes. How is this possible? How is this governance? How is this representation of this and the other 18 to 20,000 residents of this town, sir? We feel like we're being steamrolled.
We're following the law, and if you are aggrieved by whatever decision the tree warden makes, you can appeal that decision to the Superior Court.
With what funds? Will the town pay for that? The town has the fund, my taxpayer dollars to fight me in court. I don't have the money to fight the town in court. Come on.
That's your prerogative.
Well, I'll finish my remarks, even though this is, feels kind of like a sham hearing. And please put that in record and put my name next to it, put it in the paper. So look, we've narrowed this issue to trees, but the issue is this Great Island vision, which doesn't exist, right? What's happening here is we're cutting trees, old growth trees with wildlife, right? There hasn't been a soil study. There hasn't been a study for the sound. There hasn't been, and so I'm saying a real environmental study. There hasn't been a wildlife survey to widen a road for who knows what. No one knows what's going to happen. No one knows how the town is going to pay for whatever they do. So this real issue here is an issue of timing. Why do you need to widen the road today? Why do you need to destroy these trees today? Maybe you'll have to do it in the future. Maybe people will vote on it, but that's one more year the trees are there. There's no reason to do it today other than to get it out of the way and to make it harder and harder for people to protest. It's the old, adage that you throw the frog into hot water, jumps right out, you slowly heat the water up, right, and it doesn't jump out. You boil the frog. So if you do these little things to destroy Great Island, one by one, incrementally, there'll be nothing left for people to protest and for people to vote against and for people to vote people out of the office on when you've destroyed it all. So you're saying you're following the law. What I say you're just doing is incrementally trying to destroy a resource and an asset of our town because you don't have a plan, but you want to spend some money. Some consultant told you to do it. Some contractor wants to make some money. Who knows what relationships they have? No one would sit there. I'm in commercial real estate. No one would build a driveway when you haven't platted your house first. You don't know what's going into Great Island. Why do you need to build a driveway now? Why do you need to destroy anything right now when you don't know what happens next? And yes, I sound angry because I am. Because this is being steamrolled over a community. You're choosing to spend money unnecessarily. There's many things this town could spend money on. There's no reason this has to happen now. Say it has to be for emergency services. Emergency services for what will be on the island in the future that nobody knows about, that you haven't said or figured out how you're going to pay for. People have lived on the island, right? There are homes there. So obviously, for the use that's there now, it works just fine. You don't know what the future use is. So what is the point? You don't do a construction project typically when it's not fully funded. right? Whatever you're building on the island, it hasn't been visioned, it hasn't been voted, it hasn't had the opportunity for public comment. So let's get started. Let's sure we build this road.
Do they have a
You know-
master plan?
What?
Do they have a master plan?
They don't. That's
Why don't
well
they do
known.
anything then?
That's
Why
well
master
known. It's
plan?
not funded. They've hired a consultant. Maybe in the future they will. Maybe I'll be sitting here and fighting against a master plan. But what I'm saying here today is you haven't done anything. You just want to go and spend some money to do something that if it has to happen in the future, that's a different debate, but it surely doesn't have to happen today. And so what I would say is you, sir, the tree warden, you, sir, the people who are decision makers who left this room in great disrespect to all these people who showed up, should think about why they want to do this, today, and what impact this has on the residents, the homeowners, our children, the environment, the water, and what message this sends that, hey, let's just run around and cut things down before we even know what we're doing. My 4-year-old might do that, because he's 4 and doesn't know, but I would expect the people governing this town to have much better sense than that. Thank you for the time.
You'd be next, I believe. Yeah, I think you see it there. 636.
My name is Ned Farrington. I live on 60 Cedar Gate Road,
You get that?
50 Cedar?
60.
Nate? Ned?
What road?
What's your,
60 Cedar Gate.
60 Cedar Gate. Is that right? 60 Cedar Gate?
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm not sure how I can improve on that, gentleman. By the way, thanks.
Hopefully I was just speaking for all of us.
First of all, I want to just say thanks to all the people that had the foresight to buy Great Island. That was one of those things I've lived in Darien off and on for about 70 years. I've been going down to Great Island or Ziegler Estate probably for the last 50 as a fireman. So I've been, part of the reason I'm in front of you is I've got a lot of old feelings for that road and in the area. So I think we made the right decision to buy it. And like the gentleman before me, I'm sort of questioning why we might need to do that road project right now. I have to, in all fairness, I have to admit that the fire marshal I know very well, Bob Bush, who's part of the Norotan Fire Department I'm with. As a matter of fact, I called up Bob this morning and I didn't realize how much of an involvement he had with this. So I wanted him to come join me to help protest this. And Bob gave me his other side of the story of basically the importance of having a street there that could support all the fire department gear and stuff. And we had a little debate about whether the road needed to be widened because of that. But I would say for the last 50 years, going back and forth, you had the fire department, 3-department picnics down there. And of course, with Norotan, we have our marine operation down there, so I'm familiar with the roads a fair amount and the difficulty of navigating those, et cetera. But it's a whole different ballgame, I'm sure, with when you expect to have more people coming onto that island. And again, it just breaks my heart the thought that we would be taking down those trees so you know what's the solution? And I'm not sure I have one. But one, I was thinking that maybe the road that's up there by the cow barn, and I'm not sure if anyone from the Great Island Committee has reached out to the owner of that property and seen whether there could be a way for us to get an easement on that road. I suspect they might have, but I was just throwing that out there.
They should have been negotiated when they bought the property.
Well, yeah, you're probably right, but the gentleman, Hans Mende, who Bob Bush shared me his name, I'm like, well, maybe that person you could reach out to and see whether that's a way to be able to solve the equation. Maybe just have the existing road remain as it is and be able to have a 2-way for that road that's by the cow barn. But again, I'm sure that's been thought about before because of the committee and stuff. Because it's if you're going to try to have a 2-way street basically it's always been a 1-way street, and then there wasn't been that much traffic. by those old pine trees and stuff. So even when we had the picnics out there, everybody would be able to negotiate that. But if you're having a lot more traffic there, you're trying to squeeze everybody down that one lane, and it's difficult. But meanwhile, you're going to have to. It's a Hobson's choice, isn't it? Where everybody in this room loves that property, and that's why we put put our financial necks on the line to be able to buy it. But it's sort of the optics of it. The first thing we're doing is to tearing down the trees, and I know that's probably not what the committee wanted to do or wants to do. But I'd like to think that somehow if we could just maybe hit the pause button, maybe there's something we can figure out. I don't know. I don't know what that would be. All I know is that you're right. Once you cut down those trees, it's gone. And unless there's a real driver to have to expand that road right now, maybe there's a way for us to kick the can down the street, in 6 months or so, and see whether there's some other way to resolve this. But that's what I had, and I know in Ed Gentile's, last time when I saw him on the presentation he made on 8/20/21, he said they had already awarded the contract to Burns Construction, which he reiterated today. And I went through the steps of what they're going through. But I guess what got me a little upset too at the time was it feels like we're just coming in after the event. In other words, if the contract has already been assigned, I'm not sure if you can even get it, what it takes to back out of that type of a contract. I'm assuming you probably could. But either way, I don't. I'd like to see if we could just, as I said, hit the pause button for us to see whether we could be able to come up with, a better proposal than taking down the trees and widening the road to the point where it's. You're right. Once those trees are gone, you're not going to see them again. And I think it really describes when you drive up that road. All the times I've done it, it's just a special way to be able to present that whole. The Holy Great Island, you're driving through that nice road there. So that's my 2 cents.
Thanks. Chuck, you just walked in. You're in the hot seat. If you'd like to speak, you're in the right chair.
6:42.
But,
You got name and address, Chuck. Yeah, you just,
sorry for being late, but just a couple things to say.
Chuck, you got to name and address.
Oh,
for
my name's Chuck Andre. I live at Charles Andre. I live at 15 Clock Avenue, Darien, Connecticut. Clock.
Yeah, 15.
Sorry about that.
Sorry, I wear hearing aids too.
No, I don't speak too well, but I just want to say a couple things. First of all, I'm a big believer in beginning the end in mind. You should start with the end product and then work backwards from that. And what bothers me about this whole project is that we don't have the end project. I mean, we're talking about workshops on Great Island. We're talking about, the community giving their input, how we're going to use it, and so we don't have a solution yet. And yet they want to do this massive road construction. And to the last gentleman's point, tearing down these beautiful trees that have been there probably since any of us were alive. So the other thing I wanted to say, just 2 things. One, I want to say that I think take a pause, let's finish the project and figure out what we want, and then decide if we really need to increase the size of this road. And the other thing I wanted to say was, there are other places. I go all around this country, and even, one of my friends lives in Irvington, New York. You have to go through this one-way bridge to get to a house. It's not so uncommon. My grandson went to the Rye Nature Center this last year for a camp, and the road is no wider than the road going up to Great Island. And I picked him up multiple times a week, and people negotiated the thing. Sure, people drove to the side and they got by. How much traffic do we expect? It's not a highway. These are just people going to a park. So if we can't negotiate around each other, there's something, I don't, unless they expect to have constant road cars going back and forth. There's lots of places in this country where we manage with roads similar size to this. So I don't understand why this road has to have, a double line in the middle of it. Just don't get it. And it's plenty big right now to get a fire engine or an emergency vehicle down there. In fact, my son, and I'll say one last thing, my son was a post 52 in town, and they did their training to drive the ambulances in Ziegler's Cove. They used to send the kids down there because there's no traffic to train how to drive those ambulances. So we know you can get an ambulance down there. So I don't understand why we're trying to do this so quickly and why we can't just wait until we know what we want to do with that property. No one has told us that. And yet we're doing the biggest development to that property, tearing down trees that are hundreds of years old before we know anything. So I don't get it. That's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thanks, Chuck. All right, well, you're next to Monica. Who's in the third row? I can't even see back there. Would you like to speak?
I really don't have anything to add to what everybody said, but I really hope that the rush to put in this road has nothing to do with spending government money in one calendar year versus another before it disappears, which government is famous for. So, just a thought.
I agree.
Move around to your right. Would you like to speak?
Okay.
You know what, speak. Would you like to speak? The gentleman next to you with the glasses. Would you like to speak?
I'm not sure.
He's in the fourth row. I can't see.
Hi. Alan Anderson, 33 Beverly Place.
Alan Anderson, you got that one. 32 Beverly.
So I have a couple of things. One is I was listening to the first gentleman, Ed.
Yeah.
Yeah. He mentioned something about the fact that we know we're going to need to do this because we're going to change the status of the island or something to that effect. Like there's different rules, like there can be businesses right now on Great Island, correct?
Excuse me?
There cannot be businesses on Great Island right now.
I don't know, I'm not involved.
So
I don't
that's the
believe so.
status that he was talking about. He said, we know we need to change that. How do you know to change that when you don't have a plan? But there may be a plan. We just don't know about it yet, or it hasn't been told to us. But they know, I'm sorry, I'm looking at you, because I actually do think you have the answer. Like, we don't know what we're doing, but we know we're going to change the status of the property. So if the status is going to change, we need to know what's happening there, and we don't seem to know that yet. Is that correct? Am I making an assumption here?
Yeah, I'm not on the committee.
Well, neither am I, but as I recall, Ed said any change of use would trigger it.
No, he said, we know we're going to do a change of use. It's very
Change of use.
specific.
Yeah.
So if he knows he's going to make a change of use, what is that change?
Again,
Or is it just that I think we're going to make a change of use, so we need it? You do see my point, right?
yeah,
We can argue that
Try-
he misspoke, but he
No.
seemed to be very deterministic that this is what he wanted to do because we have that change coming.
it's my understanding it's a residence, it's going to be open to the public, and I think that's what he said. Again, please tell us what you think about the trees. That's what.
Oh, I love the trees. I want to know where the owl is. And one of the things, and I had mentioned this before in another hearing, which couldn't make this decision because it was a different type of hearing. We came from Long Island, and there were some very, very narrow roads out there as well. And there was water on both sides. So what they did is they put like an indent in where people could drive in and hold and let somebody pass, right? It's not very difficult to do. It's not going to cost a lot, and there's room for it. It's 1,000 feet, 300 meters thereabouts, right? So put two in, and then people can actually use that to navigate when they go in and out. That would be a small project, and it would save the trees. And then eventually, if we need to do anything, because we now know what we're going to be doing, we can make that effort. But I agree, it's just silly to take down these trees and it becomes like, boom, yeah, we've taken one step, so we do need to take the other step, and then took that step, and so we need to take the other step. I agree with those sentiments. So, and I also like the idea of maybe asking the buyer of the other property, could we figure something out? Could we maybe drive the other way? Not use their road near the barn, but there is another way to potentially build a road and keep these things going. Anyway. Thanks.
Thank you, Al.
I'm having trouble seeing, we're in the back row, see, I think I'm in the back. Would you like to speak?
Ina Ghaznavi, 33 Beverly Place.
33
And we
Beverly.
live right across the circle. Great Island, we live right across Great Island.
You get the
So
name?
one of the questions I had is because I've heard that apparently neighbors were contacted about vegetation and everything. We live right across. We can see the road, we can see the circle. And I don't know, we were never contacted. But anyway, that's one of the questions I have. Because I keep hearing that neighbors were contacted that have direct view of the Great Island, and we were never contacted. So we would be very interested what vegetation, because I understand there's vegetation plans also.
Excuse me, did you object to the removal of the trees?
Pardon?
Did you object to the removal of the trees?
Yes, yes.
Okay,
yes.
then you should
So
have
you want
gotten a
me to focus
notice
on
in the
it?
mail.
Pardon me?
You should have gotten a notice in the mail about this public hearing tonight.
No, that's not what I was, a question.
Oh, I'm
I was actually addressing it because I think there's some members of the Great Island Committee that are here, and so sorry if I'm going off tangent, but because it was addressed at this meeting that the vegetation, the first gentleman that spoke, I didn't hear his name, I have hearing loss, so my apologies. But the first gentleman that spoke, he had said, had coordinated with people who are neighbors to Great Island about the vegetation. We were never contacted about that. And we're direct across from Great Island. So that was one point. We bought our house because of the beautiful view of Great Island. I have to say, I am very happy Great Island has been purchased so the public can enjoy it. I'm elated because we see from morning, from sunrise to sunset, the wildlife. It's unbelievable. It's beautiful. And even though we've lost our privacy, we see walkers. We see the town. We've never seen so many walkers in the town enjoying Great Island. We also go down Rings End and we see these beautiful trees. So it's the beauty, the whole neighborhood, people who live in the community. I keep on, every time I go down Ring Island, since I learned about the trees being cut down, I said, you're going to lose that beauty when you're just going. That's been part of the history of Darien for the community. And even though we've only enjoyed it for these past few years, I can imagine for those who have grown up, we have many neighbors who were children and lived in the community. The shade, it provides shade. But anyway, I understand as I understand from what I was hearing, there's two reasons to open it. One is because of vehicle passage, and they've been addressing, there are alternatives. And I'm the wife of Alan who just said that you can actually build a side road that somebody can pass. So that's one alternative. I don't know if those were considered. Other questions, and I think somebody has also raised, have you talked to, just like you had to buy the circle, I have no idea what it would involve financially, but have you addressed that with the purchaser, the developer of the adjacent land? Maybe you can make some consideration to widen it and take some of that part of the land. I don't know if that was considered. Emergency vehicle, we lived in a town, we had very narrow roads. They actually, emergency vehicles had access to other roads. So it wasn't open, it wasn't a public road, but they had another way because it was a private road, but there was a way for them to access. So for example, you have this road, this developer who has purchased the Ziegler estate. Why can't emergency vehicles use that road? I don't know if there's an ordinance or something that restricts that, but why not consider that, address that with the developer, that emergency vehicles can use the Ziegler entrance? So these are the question is, have these alternatives been considered? And then finally is, why do we have, you want the public to access, and I understand that. In the interim, how about you having the shuttle for the 21st? Why not offer a shuttle for the community, for those who can't walk, that you have a shuttle to transport other residents in the interim? I do understand, you want to open it, there's already been, I guess, about a year since purchased, and you want residents to enjoy this, especially those that can't walk to there. So I appreciate that. But there are alternatives in the interim until you have this master plan. So I don't know what the logistics are involved with the shuttle, but that's another alternative. So that's the only thing is, have these all been explored? What are the options? Because once these trees are gone, and I can tell you, we see this wildlife. I mean, to go early sunrise, there are owls, there's so much bird life there. You're destroying these habitats for the wildlife there. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Jim, would you like to speak back? You like to speak?
Oh, me?
Yeah, I think so. Has anyone else back there? Has everyone spoken?
But we can go around that. I was
Yeah.
worried it was going to be last because everybody
Doesn't
said so
matter, you
much,
won't be
but I
last.
don't
You
have
got
much
it.
to say.
John's gonna be last.
Yeah, okay. We'll make John last then. So Sam Haverstick, I live on Good Wives River Road.
Sam what?
Haverstick, Haverstick.
So you got that. Yeah. Thanks, Sam.
Yeah, no, thank you. And thank you, everybody, for coming. And a lot of my thoughts have been echoed and have already been spoken. I agree. I think the island is really a beautiful property. Living on Good Wives River Road, right on the corner of Salem Straits and one down in Good Wives River Road. I have 4 kids. They're young. We're able to take walks. I take walks with my wife pretty much every night when I get home from work. So it's a beautiful property, and it's a pleasure to be able to enjoy it. I think, like a lot of people have said, I just don't, and so I'm just going to reiterate it, I just don't know what the plan is, right? I think that the potential of building something or widening the road might garner more support, and I don't want to see the trees removed, but might garner more support if we knew the end goal, right? And people have said it a few times, we're doing one thing without knowing the next thing we're doing, right? And the consequences of doing that one thing, right? So like I haven't heard anything on, and I know this is tangential, but like traffic patterns. So if we widen the road and it becomes a 2-lane road, is there a stop sign? Is there a stoplight? Already we're seeing an increase in traffic down there, speeding cars, more litter on the side of the streets. So like things need to be policed if we're going to start to like build this out. I really believe that, and I do see a police car come down. I get the 454 train in the morning, and a police car comes down and into I guess to open up Pear Tree Point or whatever. But like there's not much presence down there, and so like I think for the town to say, hey, listen, we want to widen the road. We want to widen the road because, and then fill in the blank, like because we're building a nature center, because we're building a walking park, because we need to build 10 parking spots in this specific location. It seems like we are doing things piecemeal. I noticed that part of the road was paved past the roundabout, just a little part of it, which is great, but it just seems like we're doing things in kind of individual sequences, and it doesn't seem to make much sense to me. And I'm hoping it doesn't make sense to everybody else, and we can pause and take a step back and figure out what the ultimate plan is. I get it. I get it's hard, right? I live down there. I don't know if anybody, I know a lot of the people speaking here live down in that neck of the woods. And I understand that other people in the other parts of town who don't live down there want to like immediately have use to the property, immediately be on the property. I remember when the field up at Ox Ridge was being debated on, I didn't participate in these meetings because I lived down at Good Wives River Road. It didn't have an impact on me. So I do understand that, but I don't think that's an excuse then to then just move full steam ahead. I also think another part of the problem is, and I appreciate your time here, you're the tree warden. Yeah. So, and I appreciate that and all the things you do in town, but it's piecemeal. We have the tree warden here, but you don't know, like some questions have been asked that I wouldn't expect you to know, and you don't know the answers to, like, about the uses of the property. So I think this needs to be a larger discussion that involves more about the ultimate goals and plans of Great Island than just the removal of several trees, which again I'm opposed to. The trees are beautiful, but I think it needs to be a fuller discussion. So anyways, I appreciate the time. Thank you for doing this.
Thank you.
Let's see. Is there anyone else who'd like to
I just want to say
speak this
one more
evening?
thing.
Sure. Thank you. Well, actually, there's only one comment. We'll give you
That's
two.
fine, sorry about that, but I just want to say that this appears to be the first forum which we've had an opportunity to speak to the town on. So far, there's been a committee that's been pretty much a closed-door thing. We see some things in the newspaper about it, and that's about what we've heard about Great Island, and all of a sudden, they're tearing down trees. So, I mean, and Mike, we know each other for a long time, all of a sudden they want to cut down trees, and because there's signs posted on trees, we're here tonight and saying, wait, slow down. And it strikes me that this is, everything so far moved ahead without asking people and without giving us a chance to respond to it. And that's my feeling. And I'm not, I want to see the thing developed. I want to see people down there using the park. My wife and I walk in every day there, so we're enjoying it. But, and I want to see other people enjoy it, but I also don't want to see them tear down all these trees and make that road, I can't imagine what it'll look like after they get done. I just think they ought to take a pause. And I don't know if the town, I don't know if this is going to get back to the first selectman or whatever, but I hope it does. And they hear what we're saying,
Thanks, Chuck. Thank you.
You're 16 o'clock, right?
Yeah.
15.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
15.
You walked in late. Would you like to share?
I'd like to say something, if I might.
Sure.
You want me to go up there?
Sure, if you can. Yeah, we have to get your name and address. And sorry to inconvenience you.
Almost everything.
Oh, name and address.
Oh, Wayne Baden, Baden. I live at 146 Goodwives River Road.
Thank you.
I have a question. I don't know if anyone can answer it. There's a fire today. How does the fire truck get in there?
Through that road.
Through the road?
Yeah.
From Rings End?
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so that's the end of that problem. Why is there no consideration of an access from Long Neck? You're the town. If you need access, you can take it. Just saying, it's not your job, you're the tree guy. You have the right of eminent domain, it's a public purpose, you can do whatever you want, whether the guy agrees or not, unless you've made a contract with him saying you can't do it. Has there been any environmental assessment of what will happen when the trees are down? I have, like Chuck here, I've been around the country a lot, and there are an awful lot of one-lane bridges and roads, and everybody seems to get along. There's one in a town I'm living in Maine where there's a garden. There are hundreds of cars a day that drive up to that garden. And it all works out on a one-lane road. They're courteous to each other. That's all you need. Of course, the whole idea of starting the project by tearing down the trees and widening the gates without a plan is preposterous, it seems to me. I know I'm sounding like an echo, but that's certainly the case. And the other thing is, and I don't know if somebody might have mentioned it, we have amazing amount of parking down by Pear Tree Point Beach. What about a shuttle service? Great job for kids. You know, they could park there. Right now, that's where they park now. And they seem very happy, and they walk along the Pear Tree Point Road, and they walk up the hill at the end of Rings End Road and go up into the park. Nobody's complaining. I see it every day. It's an incredible chutzpah to do this without a plan. It is just astonishing to me. And that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the general audience that hasn't spoken yet that'd like to speak? All right. John, it's either you or Monica, if you'd like to speak.
Hi, Monica McNally, 71 Arrowhead Way. I want to say first to everyone, thank you for coming. And I want you to know that it breaks my heart also that we have to take these trees down. There are a lot of questions that were asked. I'm the chair of the Great Island Committee, and we have several members in the audience here tonight. You can always reach out to me, you can give me a call, and I will answer any of your questions.
Ma'am, I've done that, and you've not responded to me. So, I'm sorry, I know you're not supposed to interrupt, but, you know, politician platitudes, someone who lives in a private part of the community, so is Elm Straits,
Okay.
that has no adjacency to Great Island, right? You've been contacted by me for sure. I don't know about any of my other neighbors, and you have not responded. So, sorry to interrupt, but you know it's tough for you to start your remarks by something that's objectively untrue.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, if can you speak louder?
Sure. Is this working?
It doesn't amplify the sound, it's just for TV 79.
Oh,
Just
okay.
gotta speak louder.
So a couple of points I think that were raised. The town, when we negotiated this price, the purchase, we do have an emergency access easement over the Ziegler property. The Ziegler property has been purchased by a private resident, and so we do not have the right to just eminent domain over there. We have an easement over that. But we need to have 2 cars be able to pass on 23A on this entrance, all right?
Why can't you just use the easement, the road by the cow barn, why don't you use that as a 2-way?
Because that's over private property, and I don't think.
But you said you have an easement.
We have an emergency access easement.
So you need to widen the road for emergency access vehicles, and you have an emergency access easement. As this gentleman said, problem solved.
Okay.
Great. We
I'm
can go
sorry,
home.
I'm sorry, sir. I'm sorry, I'm not, you know what? I'm not going to get into a debate, but it's not just emergency.
You're not going to engage with the
It's
community?
not just emergency vehicles that need to use that road. It's the other 21,700 people in this town that want to access Great Island.
They do that in Rye, New York.
Monica has the floor. Please don't interrupt her.
But you don't have a plan
Please
for
don't
that.
interrupt her.
You have no plan.
Please let her speak. We're running out of time. It's 7:08. We have to give up this room at 7:30. Please be respectful.
The Great Island Committee.
Be respectful of the people who live here before you destroy our assets. Come on.
She has the floor. Please let her speak.
Okay, yeah, that's the last interruption I'm going to take, so any more, and I'll just take your phone call. Okay?
I hope.
The Great Island Advisory Committee meets the 3rd Wednesday of every month, at least. We have met many, many more times than just the 3rd Wednesday. We have been working on the project, coming up with the vision and the master plan. We hired the consultant in June, so we are 3 months into this. I would highly, highly encourage you to join the process on what is going to happen on Great Island, where there are many, many, many trees that I'm sure you are concerned about. The first meeting is September 21st. I hope to see every single one of you at this community engagement meeting, letting us know what you would like to see happen on Great Island. This is the beginning of the process, and this is when your voices need to be heard. The first meeting will be downstairs or in the auditorium at 10:15, and there will be another meeting for people that want to be on the site at 2 o'clock. There's a bus still available. There are still seats available. You can sign up, and you can get transportation to there, so you do not have to walk on Pear Tree Point Beach Road, which we all know is a little bit dangerous in general, right?
It's the 21st?
Yes, it's the
That's
21st,
Saturday.
yes.
Respectfully, Monica.
We will be, I'm sorry, we will be having 4 community engagement meetings, but this is a process, right? So just like our plan of conservation and development is a process. And the best time to have your voice heard is in the beginning of the process. So again, I'm going to close with, I hope you all are very, very, very concerned citizens, and I know that you care about what happens on Great Island, not just the entrance. So I hope to see all of you at
We
this
can't
meeting.
pause what's going on, right?
When was the beginning of the process to prevent this destruction?
Yeah,
Right? Like you're saying, oh, we're at the start of the process after we've destroyed this piece of it. When was the point when this group and others could have gathered to prevent these ill-conceived plans of destruction? Like when was that decision made, and when could this group have stood and prevented that? Because what I'm hearing is, oh, we want your input after we've wrecked this, but we didn't tell you when we were gonna wreck this stuff.
If anybody else
So
wants
they're
to
gonna have
speak.
to ask you to pause.
Ask if anybody
I'd
else
like to close it out with John. You want to, would like to speak?
Oh,
John?
wait a minute. Monica, we can respond to that, because that's my question too. Is you say, and I know all about your meetings on the
You know what?
21st.
This
And
is a public
don't
hearing,
interrupt
so
me.
I'm
We
going to
didn't-
let John
No, don't
have this.
interrupt me.
have
But
these
I
legalese
plan to go to your meetings, and I read those in the paper, and I plan to attend both. But this is all happening, and none of us have had any chance to have any input into the whole thing.
This 23A, the work has been in the works since January, okay? There were multiple planning and zoning meetings, ARB meetings, EPC meetings. There were plenty of opportunities for people to say what they wanted to say.
Until you posted on the trees, when did the general public, who has to work so they can pay their taxes to live here, when was the general public notified you were going to destroy the trees, except with the posting that happened in August?
It was in the plan. It was in the plan. And the plan was spoken to at the EPC meetings, at the ARB meetings, and at the planning and zoning meetings. And at the Board
I
of
mean,
Selectmen.
that's some political nonsense.
No, it's
We
not. It's the
we
truth.
buried,
I- you
we
know, I-
buried destruction of town assets deep in a plan so that obviously nobody has the time to comb through, right? Where was the notice months before, hey, before we've made this decision, we're gonna go wreck these things to widen a road to nowhere, like the bridge in Alaska from the 90s, right? Where was the notice of that specific thing, right?
I'd like to,
It wasn't
I have to
there.
move the public hearing along. I understand the feelings.
7:12, we have to give up the room.
Yeah, I'd like to
Live
just-
here. Why do you want to wreck this town? Are you getting paid for it? Is there some, like, what's your ulterior motive for destroying assets of this town? Your
Knock it
residents
off.
too.
Knock it off. Don't accuse my wife of being on the tape.
I want to know why people want
Right,
to destroy
right, let's
assets
take
of
it,
this
take it
town
down.
with no plans. Right?
Anybody
There's
else
no
wanna
reason
speak?
to do it, sir. And if there's no logic to it,
No reason for you to accuse her.
We have to close the public
First
hearing.
selectman
what
has the
what I'm
floor.
saying is, it's illogical, and I want to understand the logic.
The first selectman has the floor. The hearing will continue. Thank you.
Hello, my name is John Zagrodzky, and I'm the first selectman for the town of Darien. I'm highly empathetic to the emotions in this meeting. Trees like this are special in terms of the role that they play in nature. These trees are particularly special because of the aesthetic beauty that they add to that street.
Speak a little louder, please.
Sure. Because of the aesthetic beauty that they add to that street. We've all gone up and looked at them. I've walked that road many times. I've looked at every single tree that they are contemplating as part of this project. At the same time, listening to this discussion tonight, it's further proof that there is simply no way to over-communicate.
these types of decisions need to be discussed again and again and again. And there need to be ample opportunities for people to come in and hear the rationale, ask these types of questions, and make sure that they have a clear understanding of what's happening. I think based on some of the questions that have been asked here, that frankly you guys are owed a more clear explanation of exactly what we're doing. Despite the fact that we've had a lot of discussions about it, to my point, you can't over-communicate. And so if some of you have got additional questions about that, whether it's the emergency access, the two-way access, why we could do this now without actually having the master plan in place, all of those different things. We do have answers to that, and having another session, or at least a communication with all of you that goes through that, again, in more detail, and gives you a chance to take a look at it and have more questions asked if you want. Government is about transparency. If we can provide more transparency, it's going to be better. And allowing this process to continue so that you guys have a chance to pose those questions is something I will freely commit to.
So are you going to do that before you destroy the trees?
These trees are not going to get destroyed before we have this additional communication. I don't know exactly what form. I don't know exactly what form that's going to take. I'm not going to think on the fly on this. I'd like to talk to everybody involved.
But how will you notify the community? Because we can't.
I assure you, I'm going to make sure it's widely known that this is going to happen.
Okay.
In fact, I'll run that communication by you. You take a look at it and you tell me if that's enough.
Happy to do that.
Okay. All right. So please have a little bit more faith in this process. A lot of the folks that are working on this, these professionals here, they do all report to the Board of Selectmen, so I don't want somebody to think that they're making this decision in a vacuum. I assure you, this is also my third or fourth meeting today on this topic. We've met for many, many hours discussing this. So all of the Board of Selectmen, all of these officials, the fire marshal, all of our attorneys, everybody has been fully read into this, and I assure you, we've spent a lot of time on it. But what we have not done is over-communicate that, and that's clear from this meeting tonight. So we're going to spend some more time doing that. We're going to do this in a calm, measured way, and we're going to do it in as a thorough way as I can possibly muster.
I'm personally really happy to hear that because, as I said when I spoke, I thought the decision was a foregone conclusion, and I would have spent more time. Maybe it would have been a waste of time because other people have spoken up about it.
Well, I want to make sure that there's a clear response to every one of the questions that have, or suggestions that have been posed tonight. What about all these narrow roads all across the country? What about all these communities that seem to get along just fine? You're owed a clear explanation and answer to each one of those questions. That's completely fair. I don't know that I've actually seen a written answer to those kinds of questions. They've all been noted, and we'll provide that. I don't know what else to tell you. The last thing I want to do is emphasize something I said at the last tree hearing that we had, is that ultimately all of these things are difficult trade-offs. There's simply no way that we can optimize across all of these different elements, and that ultimately when we do make those decisions, there's going to be some things that were not optimal. We just went through this hearing on trees on near water. Some of those trees provide great shade. But when you look at those trees and you have multiple tree wardens who say that they are dangerous, right? Does anybody want to sign up for to share the liability with the town in case someone's hurt by one of those trees? I can't responsibly commit to that, commit the taxpayers of this town to that type of liability. I can't do it. It's not possible. But unfortunately, that's going to require one of those tough decisions, and I'm going to hate it when we have to take those trees down. But I don't have a responsible alternative. And so the only reason I'm telling you this is that I will make sure that when we sit down and go through these final decisions on all that this is going to be over-communicated. And I'll stand here all night. I'll go through every single one of these points to make sure that that's over-communicated. In exchange for that, I want all of you to realize that sometimes we're going to have to make some trade-offs to get a complete answer to some of these projects. We are going to do our dead level best to get that trade-off just right. That's why we're here. And if we don't, then I will hear from you on all that. But that's my commitment.
And can we have a room that isn't pre-booked so that we can spend as much time as we need?
We may have, I will figure that out. Okay, thank you.
I'd like to close the public hearing. We're getting under constraint for time. I want to thank everyone for showing up. Thank you.